Maurice Nicoll, Psychological Commentary, Volume 2, based on his work with Gurdjieff. Birdlip, January 27, 1945, Self-Remembering, Part 2 of 2. It sounds strange because we will keep taking ourselves as one and find the greatest difficulty in moving away from the power of this illusion and catching a glimpse of our multiplicity of being. Even such a glimpse is called, in the work, a moment of self-remembering. It is called a moment of self-remembering because it is a moment of realizing one's mechanicalness. To realize emotionally one's mechanicalness is called a moment of self-remembering, whereas to be identified with one's mechanicalness, to be identified with every I that takes charge, is called a state of sleep. Again, to realize that the work teaches, to realize what the work teaches when it says that everything happens, to catch a glimpse of this meaning of this phrase may constitute a moment of self-remembering. That is, a moment when through inner taste and perception, you perceive you are not in your usual identified state. Just reflect what it means. Everything happens. And then how completely contrary this idea is to your ordinary way of thinking, which is based on the idea that one can do and that life is run intelligently. I think in these present times, this is one of the most useful forms of thinking. It at least prevents us from being completely upset when things do not turn out as we expected or when some unhappy, insoluble thing meets us. What is the solution? The solution lies in the direction of self-remembering. It lies in the direction of all that the work teaches, because if we could remember all the work teaches, if it became a living reality to us, a thing that we really begin to believe by or to live by, then our relationship to life and its events would no longer be that of a person completely asleep in life, a person who is full of useless suffering, who takes everything as a matter of astonishment, who is made negative by most ordinary events. Now, when we make an aim, it should always have the same connection to the work. Now, when we make an aim, it should always have some connection to the work. Remembering one's aim at a difficult moment is a form of self-remembering by definition in the work. But if the aim has nothing to do with the work, if, for example, my aim is to make $100,000 or gain a title, and I remember my aim, it will have no connection with the work. It is said that we must make aim in the work, a work aim. But the work aim is not the same as a life aim unless the same, in some way, the two are connected. If my aim is to make $100,000 in order to make possible some form of this work, which requires money, and if this is genuinely so, then this apparent life aim will be connected with the work aim. If I am clever at making money and at the same time put the work in my valuation, my cleverness in life and my feeling for the work will reinforce each other, and there will be no contradiction. So you'll understand that when the work says that one form of self-remembering is to remember one's aim, or when it says that when you try to remember yourself, you must remember your aim, if your aim is merely a life aim, such as making plenty of money and getting a title, it will not be of any use. Remembering an aim of this kind will take you straight into life and its power, and will rob you of any force you may possibly have that belongs to the work. I will add just one thing here about work aim connected with life, namely that the work has three lines of work in it. Work on yourself, work in connection with other people in the work, and work in connection with the work itself. Unless these three lines are satisfied, at least provisionally, your aim will lead nowhere. There are three aspects to all work aims. If a man only wishes to work on himself, he will get nowhere. In fact, he will become much worse than he was in ordinary life. So try to think what it means that an aim should have three forces in it, and what the three lines in the work indicate. To work simply for other people and not on yourself is wrong. To work on yourself and regard to other people as and to regard other people as a nuisance is wrong. And again, to work on yourself in connection with other people without thinking of the work itself and what it needs is wrong. Now we will speak about insulation of oneself in connection with the self-remembering. On one occasion, Gurdjieff said that a man must insulate himself from life in order to work. This is very easily misunderstood. Its deeper meaning is that he must insulate himself from his mechanical self so that he is not exposed to every change in external circumstances. I will quote you something from one of the esoteric books connected with the Sufi school, which was the esoteric school which worked on the Quran. One teacher in this school used the following phrase: "Safety lies in solitude." He added, "Let none imagine that solitude consists in living alone." I will paraphrase what this Sufi teacher said. He was dwelling on the importance of how we think of other people and whether the thoughts are entirely governed by their behavior. We all know that at one moment we dislike and the next moment like the same thing or person and think accordingly. When we know this by observation and reach a point in which both liking and disliking and all their thoughts do not govern us as we become insulated from ordinary power of life over us. Remember that this is not indifference, but is a state of becoming conscious between the opposites that are always swinging our life to and fro as on a pendulum. Indifference is mechanical, but keeping between the opposites is conscious. It is like keeping our balance. This Sufi teacher points out that whether a person takes pleasure in disliking the thing itself or in the thought of it, it is the same thing, and vice versa. Now, the work speaks about creating inner silence in ourselves, which is comparable to this idea expressed by the Sufi teacher that safety lies in solitude, but that solitude does not consist in merely living alone in a physical sense. We are taught in this work to keep silence about things which we should not express or which do harm. This, so to speak, is an external ritual, an external discipline. No group in this work can ever be made if everybody chatters. Chattering always comes from small mechanical eyes through which the force of the work runs away into life. In the Gospels, it says a man must reach a state in which his left hand does not know what his right hand does. On one occasion, Ouspensky was speaking of a great deal about this subject and said it referred to the power of inner silence. And he connected it with self-remembering. One could, for example, say many things, but one does not. That is external. But more deeply, one could allow many eyes to talk in oneself, and one stops them, does not listen to them, does not go with them, and above all, does not believe in them by inner choice. On this occasion, Ouspensky talked to us about making inner stop in ourselves and connected it with a form of self-remembering. Inner stop means stopping thinking in a certain way. You may prevent yourself saying certain things outwardly for various reasons, for social behavior, fearing the consequences, from manners, and from some picture of yourself being charitable and so on. But this is not an inner stop. This is not keeping inner silence, which is so necessary for everyone to understand after a certain time in this work and must arise from inner choice. Here, then, we have people who begin to work or who begin to understand the work at a certain stage and begin to apply it internally to themselves and begin to realize its meaning from something internal in themselves. And here, a man no longer works for a reward, but from inner choice.